Michelle Markesteyn, and her official title is the Farm to School Manager for Food and Farms at EcoTrust. And you may or may not know that Michelle has a PhD from Tufts University, the School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. And we really appreciate Michelle at the network level because she is helping to push us into the whole research and evaluation field in a very positive way. So we thank her for that very much.
So I'm going to talk about Oregon policy, but I just want our Oregon policy folks to just raise your hand because there's a lot of us in the room, actually, pretty more back there. You're not raising your hand, Jennifer. Just to know that there's a number of different ways to tell a story, so this will be interesting. Just that in Oregon, a farm to school and school garden legislative agenda really started on January 24th in 2007. And I remember the day because we had 5 days before the start of the session and the deadline when legislative concepts had to be submitted. But our approach was twofold, that we were going to institutionalize farm to school and school gardens and chip away at these state level systems barriers. And the biggest one in our state is there is no state funding for school lunch. So it was very hard. So we asked for three things, a position, program, Department of Agriculture, position, a program, Department of Education, and then money to schools to buy Oregon foods and get money for school gardens. And in 2007, oh my goodness, it worked, sort of. It's hard to find fun policy slides. And you've all heard a lot about our position in the Department of Agriculture. And so it ended in 2007, and a lot of us gave, high fives and really breathed a sigh of relief, actually, because in Oregon we have a biannual legislature. So this meant, we could take our victory, regroup, and come back in 2009. And I say it was relief because for many of us in 2007, this was our first round, it's our first foray at the State House. And to take on a full legislative agenda and media campaign was not on anyone's work plan. And I don't say we were all first-timers to say, oh, wow, look how lucky we were. But really, I hope it's really more inspiring. I mean, this is democracy, and it's phenomenal what a group of passionate professionals can do in a short amount of time. And we walked away in July thinking we had some breathing time, but for the first time ever, our State House decided to hold a special supplemental session. Basically, they were seeing if they should start meeting annually. See, they here entertain 3,000 to 4,000 bills a year. It's an enormous workload. Things can't be done thoughtfully, and often things that need to get done don't. And so they wanted to do a practice run, but in order to do this, they wanted to severely decrease the session time down to 1 month, so half your 60 days. You thought yours was short. And they limited the number of bills, legislative concepts allowed. Each senator only got one, and then each House committee only got 3 priority bills. So that brought the total number down to about 100. And then they also set up these parameters that it had to respond to an urgent need. So we're taking care of serious state business. And to ensure that was the case, the Joint Ways and Means Committee put out a memo that said, every legislative concept has to be accompanied by a memo that clearly states how the legislative concepts, were in fact responding to the urgent need, and not simply, quote, taking another bite at the apple. So in other words, you can't just go on with business that you weren't able to get during the regular session. So in 2008, we were wondering what, if anything, we should actually do, because do we have something that responded to an urgent thing? So we started meeting regularly, and we had an idea that, look, we have this position in the Department of Agriculture, but now, and he's readying supply, but who is readying demand and getting food service providers ready to purchase the foods? And we really weren't sure if we even had any political capital to spend in 2008, honestly. And we just a couple coalition members sort of poked around. And the deadline for legislative concepts came and went in October, November time period. And we all thought, okay, we'll wait till 2009. But then we got a call in December from the House Education Committee and said, we're going to petition the House Rules Committee for one more bill, and we want it to be farm to school and school garden. Okay. Fortunately, we had already been meeting, so we had our policy concept, and we said, here you go. And all of a sudden we were in our second legislative session in less than 12 calendar months. So I missed a slide somewhere, other fun pictures, but this is what ended up happening was we had a broad coalition. This is an older picture, but just to know that one of our strengths, and of course challenges inherent in that, is that we have a broad coalition that is diverse not only in terms of topic area interests such as health, the economy, and the environment, but also in terms of the niches we fill in the socio-political ecosystem. Like, for example, we have a spectrum of public interest groups participating that includes all three types of nonprofits. So we have resource organizations, such as the Northwest Health Foundation. We have people organizations, such as Onward Oregon, that are able to quickly mobilize emails and phone calls. And we have issue organizations, such as Growing Gardens and EcoTrust and Upstream Public Health and Oregon Hunger Relief Task Force that really could push the issues. And we also had representatives and lobbyists from a spectrum of special interest groups. I wasn't sure where Portland Public Schools fit in, but they're a little bit of both, as well as the Farm Bureau, Oregonians for Food and Shelter, and they were all involved in different capacities. They may not have been involved in directly being central to lobbying efforts, but I think we heard it too. They gave input, and you sort of cleared the decks before the session started. And we also had private entities such as, food producers and processors, and Department of Education and Agriculture were really integral into providing information to make sure that the policy we developed would work for the agencies involved. And our best selling points, I like this, when Representative Kotek last night said, a big tent. This is the Google tent I got. It's not a circus, but I think our best tent, it was a bit of a circus, Christy says. I think our absolute best selling point was how big of a tent, to use that phraseology, we did use, and how we did frame this issue as lifting the boat, I guess, is the same thing Washington just said, and I'm glad she didn't say that. I wouldn't have gotten an image of that. I don't know how you lift the boat. But Representative Clem yesterday read you, lines 17 through 21, but I'm going to read you lines 1 through 16 of our bill that we had printed on a mug to just really demonstrate. Sorry, Oregon, or my Oregon friends hear this all the time. I just love our bill. So our bill for an act is relating to Oregon farm to school and school garden programs. It appropriates money and for the reasons, whereas farm to school programs have been shown to result in increased market opportunities for farmers, fishers, ranchers, food processors, and food manufacturers, and to support economic development. And whereas farm to school and school garden programs improve children and the community's knowledge about and attitudes towards agriculture, food, nutrition, and the environment. And whereas farm to school and school garden programs have been shown to increase children's participation in school meal programs and consumption of fruits and vegetables, thereby improving childhood nutrition and preventing obesity and obesity-related diseases. And whereas these programs, by decreasing the distance between producers and consumers, promote community food security while reducing emissions of greenhouse gases and reliance on oil. Whew, that's a big tent. That's cool. People are always like, reliance on oil. But they were there too.